All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. And I'm going to take these 15 minutes or so with halftime of the Bengals and the Chiefs, just starting to talk about what we saw this afternoon in the city of brotherly love in the NFC Championship game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. And for the Niners, they took the field today at Lincoln Financial Field, looking to avoid losing consecutive NFC Championship games. And as the Niners knew that they were going to have to play a clean game in order to knock off the Philadelphia Eagles, it quickly became a classic dose of Murphy's Law for San Francisco. You think back to the first drive of the game, the big catch by wide receiver Devonta Smith for Philadelphia on the opening drive of the game on a fourth down, where it wasn't a catch. And of course, San Francisco never had an opportunity to replay it because they didn't see the replay. Right after that, Philly scored a touchdown and took the early 7-0 advantage. The elbow injury, not that long after that, to quarterback Brock Purdy, which knocked him out of the game and meant that the 49ers were now going to have to go to their fourth quarterback, who was journeyman Josh Johnson. And with Josh Johnson in the contest, I said early, or prior to the game rather, that San Francisco was going to have to play a clean game in order to beat Philadelphia with Brock Purdy. Now it was a scenario where they were going to have to play a flawless game with Josh Johnson at quarterback in order to go out there and get the upset win. And at the end of the day, the Eagles are simply too good of a team for you to have to go out there. And obviously, the 49ers didn't want to do it, but they had to in trotting out a fourth string quarterback in Josh Johnson. And the Eagles, to their credit, they teed off on that. And then we even saw a scenario where Josh Johnson had to leave the game with a concussion, and then the Niners had to go back to an already injured Brock Purdy. So I mean, obviously, you think about a team historically that has had some legends at quarterback. You think back to John Brody, of course, Joe Montana and Steve Young, and they were literally scraping the bottom of the barrel, if you will, if you're the 49ers, to try to go out there in a pivotal playoff game. Now, consecutive playoff losses in the NFC Championship game for San Francisco definitely has a sting. And it is clear as day that this team will be in the market this offseason looking to improve their quarterback position, as their last two playoff losses. And if you want to make the case for the Super Bowl several years ago, you could say their last three playoff losses have clearly illustrated that they need to improve things at quarterback. Jimmy G helped the 49ers get to the NFC Championship game last year, but when they needed him to make plays in the fourth quarter against the Los Angeles Rams in order to wrap that game up, he was unable to. When the Niners needed Jimmy G to make plays in the fourth quarter several years ago in the Super Bowl to get the championship, he was unable to. And then, of course, this time around, injuries to both Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson really did San Francisco win. And it's unfortunate for their sake because the 49ers more than likely are going to lose their defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, as he's expected to be the head coach of the Houston Texans. And, first it was Robert Saleh, the former Niners defensive coordinator, who's now the head coach of the Jets, and now D'Amico Ryans. And you can honestly make a case that this defense was a little bit better with D'Amico Ryans calling the plays versus Robert Saleh. And that's no slight to Robert Saleh because this Niners defense was nasty. They have a ferocious pass rush. They have all pro linebackers on that side of the ball. And then you look at what the Niners have offensively, one of the better offensive lines in the game, talent at all the skill positions, but of course, that question mark at the most important position on the field, which is quarterback. Now, San Francisco has already pushed the majority of their chips to the middle of the table in pursuit of the Lombardi trophy, and they don't have any early picks coming up in the upcoming draft. So why not get yourself an upgrade at quarterback through the veteran process? I mean, it's one of those where I could be wrong, but I don't see San Francisco making a play for Tom Brady being that he's out there. They don't have the picks to entice the Green Bay Packers to move off of Aaron Rodgers because more and more it looks like that is going to be a possibility as far as Green Bay trading A Rod. Maybe the name of a guy, of a veteran like a Derek Carr. And I'm saying that from the standpoint that, he's played in the Bay Area before, obviously for the Oakland Raiders at the time. Now they're the Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr is not a world beater, don't get me wrong, but compared to what the Niners have right now on their roster, he would be an upgrade at the quarterback position. And with this team right now, you're clearly in win now mode. You can't wait another year or two to try to figure this out because it's clear as day again. Their inefficiencies at the quarterback position for San Francisco have cost them their last three playoff games, the last three playoff losses, rather. So you look at it, you look at the talent on this defense, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. You look at this offensive line led by Trent Williams, and of course, obviously, the big fella let his frustrations get the best of him in the second half of that contest, and he decided to get himself an early shower. But nonetheless, that offensive line is solid. You got Christian McCaffrey, you got Debo Samuel, you got George Kittle, you got Brandon Ayuk. So much talent on offense. They just need a guy at quarterback to make it all to come together. And Brock Purdy was a feel good story for this year. And obviously, it was still going to be tough with a healthy Brock Purdy against Philadelphia. Not saying that San Francisco was not going to win the game or did not have a chance to win the game, but obviously things changed with Josh Johnson. He is a journeyman. He's a journeyman, but he's also a career third string quarterback. So you're not going to really rely on the third string quarterback or a practice squad quarterback in these scenarios. And that, unfortunately, for San Francisco, is what they had to do today. But getting back to the early stages of this game, and I know there's going to be some controversy this week as far as the challenge that wasn't. I would not be surprised to see the competition committee look to add a wrinkle into next season for the postseason as far as the replays go. Because you think about the uproar last year after Bills Chiefs in the divisional round, where the Bills never had an opportunity to possess the football in overtime. And it led to the competition committee changing the playoff rules for overtime. Okay. I'm saying from the standpoint of the replay because Philly got on that ball real quick. And by the time that replay came out, the Fox cameras caught it after the touchdown when they came back from the commercial break. That was a big call right there. Fourth down. Let's just say, sake of argument, that play is not upheld. Okay, San Francisco gets the ball much further upfield. Things could possibly have been different for this game. We don't know. But obviously, it was a call that wasn't, and it definitely changed the outlook of this big and obviously ultra important game. But on the flip side, for the Philadelphia Eagles, they're headed back to the show. The Eagles, all season long, have been one of the deepest, if not the deepest teams in the NFL. And there is a bevy of talent there. And you think about Howie Roseman's time in this front office for Philadelphia. And his time working with the Eagles goes back more than 2 decades now. The Eagles have always done a good job scouting, drafting, developing their talent, you name it. And the proof is in the pudding right now. You look at this Philadelphia team, it's a solid blend of veterans and youngsters, and it's all come together. I know that they had to give up a first round pick to the Tennessee Titans in order to acquire AJ Brown last year during the NFL draft. And honestly, I felt like that was a steal. You think about how Philadelphia a couple of years ago traded up in front of their division rivals, the New York Football Giants, in order to draft wide receiver Devonta Smith. That's drafting. I mean, pardon me. That's talent evaluation right there. When you see what you want and basically you go out there and get it, which is what Philadelphia has done. Plenty of depth on that defensive line. Fletcher Cox is one of the best to in the business as far as doing it, as far as interior defensive linemen go. You bring in a free agent like Hassan Reddick after years with the Cardinals. Now he's back home. Of course, he played his college ball at that same stadium for Temple. Nonetheless, the Eagles have talent at the running back position. You look at that veteran offensive line led by Lane Johnson, who was gutting it out. We know that he is not 100% healthy. And then, of course, their head coach who brings it all together in Nick Sirianni. And obviously, we still got 30 minutes of ball at least in the AFC Championship game between Cincinnati and Kansas City. But I would be hard pressed to not see Philadelphia favored heading into Super Bowl 57 a couple of weeks from now in Glendale. That's how good they are. In two playoff games this year, Philadelphia has now outscored both the New York Giants and San Francisco 49ers by a combined score of 69-14. That's not just good, it's really scary good. And honestly, for me, I think regardless of who Philadelphia plays in the Super Bowl, whether it's going to be Cincinnati or whether it's going to be Kansas City, I do expect the Eagles to be the team to beat. And just like it has been all season for the Birds, they are definitely going to be a tough out. Now, for the 49ers, you got so close last year, you got so close again. And we've seen this in the past for the 49ers franchise. You go back to 70 and 71, they got to the NFC Championship game in both of those years, lost both times to the Dallas Cowboys, one at home, one on the road. You go back to the early 90s, 92 and 93, same scenario. They lost at home at Candlestick to the Dallas Cowboys, lost again in 1993 at Texas Stadium to the Dallas Cowboys, and came back and beat the Cowboys in the 94 NFC Championship game at Candlestick. So I would really think that John Lynch is going to go all out as far as trying to get this 49ers team over the hump, because clearly you could see how close they are. But if you're San Francisco, you're going to look back to some critical spots for your season. The debacle to begin the year at Soldier Field against the Chicago Bears, losing a game on the road later on in the season to the Atlanta Falcons. Just, hypothetically speaking, you win those two games, you're hosting the NFC Championship game as opposed to having to go on the road. It's one of those woulda, coulda, shoulda things, obviously. But if you're the 49ers, you're going to sit back, especially on that long flight back to the West Coast, which is definitely going to feel longer after today's outing. You're going to go back and question those things. And for San Francisco, they just picked, obviously, we know the injuries to, especially the injury to Brock Purdy, and this one changed things. But nonetheless, San Francisco just picked the worst time to play their worst game of the season. Some of that goes to the Brock Purdy injury. Some of that also goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. The 49ers, 11 penalties today, 11 accepted penalties today. They couldn't get anything going on offense. I think it was a real game changer late in the first half when Philadelphia scored to go up 14-7. Credit to Kyle Shanahan, the Niners head coach, for being aggressive. Okay, trying to score, got the first down on the first play to Deebo Samuel, and then Josh Johnson fumbled the ball. Again, this is why Josh Johnson has been a career third string quarterback as well as a practice squad player. But at the end of the day, the Niners simply had no choice. This was it basically was what it was. So you look at it from this point, one ticket has already been punched for Super Bowl number 57. The Eagles are heading west. This is the furthest that they will have traveled for a Super Bowl venue. Obviously, a couple of years ago, it was in Minnesota. Going back to the 1980 NFL season, they were down in New Orleans at the Superdome when they lost to the Oakland Raiders, and then Super Bowl 39 heading down the coast to take on to Jacksonville to take on the New England Patriots. But nonetheless, the Eagles are flying high on their way to Arizona for Super Bowl 57, while the Niners have to be frustrated heading back home, as yes, once again, they were so close, yet so far to reaching the ultimate goal. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off. Say take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.